And a very good morning to you. Welcome along to Tuesday's OTB AM. It is a shortened week, but nonetheless, we've got lots to get through. We're going to be asking Denis Walsh a little bit later on if this is the greatest Munster Hurling Championship of all time. Ryan McMenamin is going to talk to us about barking orders on the sideline to the point where he had to take out his false tooth in the middle of the game between Fermanagh and Monaghan at the weekend. It was all worth it, obviously, as Fermanagh are headed towards an Ulster football final against either Donegal or Down. We'll find out who they're playing next week. But in the meantime, we've loads of football to talk about as well. Kev, how are you?
Very good, Jay. All well.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Good morning to everyone.
You're about to go on your summer holidays to the World Cup?
Do you call it a holiday? Is that what we can call it now? Summer holidays? I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going next week. Next Tuesday I'll be going now. So just trying to sort out everything else. Got my visa sorted. Got everything in place now. So it's all good. Yeah.
Did you have to go and do a person-to-person interview for your visa and go, no, I really like Vladimir Putin. He's great.
Yeah, do you know what? It was very quick, really, really quick. I went to the embassy in Manchester, or the place where they kind of sort the visas out in Manchester. I was probably in and out in 10 minutes.
All right.
A couple of questions. The forms are all. It's long, laborious form signing and form filling out online. Once you get all that done, though, it was fine. So in and out, really.
Yeah, the BBC have a deal with Russia anyway.
Well, that might be the case. Yeah, that might be the case. I think we can safely say that. Yeah.
And are you in any way worried about your personal safety in Russia? Has that kind of been overplayed a bit? Are you like, what? I mean, how bad's it going to be, really?
Well, the more people I've spoken to, I was talking to a guy the other week, or maybe last week, wherever it was, and he said he ended up in a bar it wasn't in Moscow, it was in one of the cities, and basically wasn't allowed to leave unless you had to pay 50 euros or 100 euros to leave a bar. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah, seriously, like sometimes it's just you get off, you have to pay money just for anything. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. I'm actually looking forward to it. There'll be a bit of travelling on my own. I think how it's going to work, the BBC have actually structured it very well, where they'll have a fixer to get you to the airport, get you checked in to make sure there's any problem. If there's any problems at all, they'll sort it for you. Yeah. And then off the back end of that, it's almost just obviously getting your flights picked up at the other side. So I can't see too many problems. I touch wood, famous last words.
Are you seeing much of Russia?
Yeah, I'm getting around. I'm in Kaliningrad. I'm in Kazan, Saransk, Moscow. That's only till the end of the group stages, and then I'll be around till the quarters or semis before I'll be back. So I'll be gone for a good 3 or 4 weeks, really.
Did you learn any Russian, any pidgin Russian too?
No, I'm trying to get a bit from Dan McDonald. I saw Dan was tweeting some things as well around it. So no, I haven't, but I'll probably catch up with Dan. Dan will be out there as well, though. So
yeah, very good.
I'm catch up with him a little bit.
It's weird in that the World Cup, from an Irish perspective, is obviously, it's like, that's happening over there, is it? I'm a little bit pissed off by the whole fact that it's happening without us, but it kind of has snuck up a little bit until the injuries and the squad started to be announced, and the controversy started to happen, and you're like, ooh, this is actually going to be pretty interesting now. Yeah,
it is. I think certainly now we're getting the idea. I think probably was Germany over the weekend. Germany, Belgium were the last two that certainly of the bigger nations that we know now the full squad, what the squad will be. The thing that I noticed again over the weekend, the racism issue has reared its ugly head. The small fines that the Russian federations, the Russian teams have been asked to pay over the last few years, this is coming about again. The youngsters, I think the suggestion was basically, if there's any sort of racist chance coming in, walk off the pitch. This could be groundbreaking if that were to be the case, this World Cup. But in general, I think you're looking at the Brazil side, you're looking at Spain, looking at Germany, and you're looking at these sides, you're thinking, there's going to be some strong teams, strong sides out there, so it should be good. Yeah,
Belgium and Argentina as well. We'll talk a bit more about that a little bit later on. I'll tell you what's coming up on the show right now. Yeah, so I'm going to bring you through the sports pages right now. We'll talk about the football stories from the Ireland-America game. There's a few other stories knocking about as well. Yaya Toure having a go. We'll talk about that in the papers in a minute. At Pep Guardiola, the Munster Hurling Championship, Denis Walsh is going to talk to us about that. It's been an unbelievable start to the hurling season, in particular in Munster. A couple of draws the weekend as well. And then Ryan McMenamin, Ricey, is going to join us around about 8:45 to talk to us about a phenomenal weekend for Fermanagh football. Not a game for the purists, obviously, but anyway, time for the papers. Oh yeah, okay. So here's the headline on the back of the Irish Independent this morning. GAA to review Hawkeye use, and then hospital confirms Karius got concussion during Champions League final. The GAA reviewing the Hawkeye use story is interesting because it's somewhat contradicted in the Irish Times. You saw this game at the weekend, or I don't know if you saw the Waterford hurling match. So obviously, there's a ball that goes nowhere near, it appears, to anybody in the stadium, goes absolutely nowhere near being a goal, and yet the umpire sees it magically the way nobody else can see it, and the referee backs one of his umpires, not the other one, and decides, you've definitely seen it, okay, definitely goal. And the momentum was already with Tipperary at that point, but like it crushes...
Changes it, it changed,
crushes Waterford at that point, and it has the potential, given that this is probably going to be Derek McGrath's last year, to end his managerial career at Waterford. He comes out afterwards and is unbelievably calm about the whole thing and is very measured and says, look, we need to move on and we're not going to dwell on that too long. But it's not a decision that changes just the momentum of one game. It could be an entire career look back on and going, what? And that's the importance of these decisions. It's it all measures even itself out over the course of a season or year, but that's bollocks, it doesn't.
I mean, you know, we'll be talking about the VAR that's been introduced into the World Cup for this one as well, and we've seen decisions that have been made in big tournaments that have affected them. But this one in particular, you look at it, you think, if there is any doubt, you know, you say that one of the umpires gives it, the other's not so sure, so doesn't give it, whatever. So if there is an element of doubt, and that's always been the case with refereeing decisions, then you don't give it. You simply don't give it, because you almost then you go to the other side. If it should have been given, then it's all. I always personally think it would be a bigger or a lesser incident than something that's been given for clearly that hasn't been over the line. Sometimes you can think, well, he's missed it, fair enough, that's what it would be. But the Hawkeye, particularly with the in for the points, I don't understand how it can't be the case that they can't just have introduced those to the goals anyway. Personally, I don't. And I think personally it would have to come in. It have to, certainly with that incident there at the weekend, that, as you say, it can cost careers, and it does. I've obviously been on the end of one or two myself. You look back and you think, if certain decisions have been made by referees and officials, it can dictate your career, and it can almost that can be the legacy of your career in many respects as well. That's the way that it is.
And obviously it took ages for football, and it still hasn't caught up to the point where...
Well, it's still not great, is it? It still needs...
No, so Thierry Henry's handball could still happen.
Yeah.
I mean, does that go to VAR? Probably does.
Yeah, well, definitely. Yeah, that would have been VAR. Yeah, definitely.
The other issue here, and I think that maybe this is being lost in this, is that, and the very defensive. So thanks to all the kind words about yesterday's photo and to all the newspapers and media for today's use. That's Sports File POM. It's the same picture used in all the back of yesterday's newspapers, where it's clear that the ball is not over the line. Now, I mean, he could have pulled it out.
Even watching it live, though, it didn't look it. You know, watching
it didn't look anywhere near it.
No, it didn't look it watching it live. It wasn't. If you sometimes think, oh, wait for the replay on that one. You thought, has he seen the
goal that Ireland conceded last week, where Seamus Coleman was kind of clearing it from 5 yards behind the line? Yeah. Good man, Seamus, for trying, but that was nowhere near it. The other thing is that the umpires are not qualified referees. They're mates of the referee. That's how they're selected. He picks his mates to be umpires, people he trusts. And they don't have any qualifications. They don't have any. There's training for them, which apparently is relatively well attended, according to a piece in the Irish Times today. But it's not mandatory. It's not that they are qualified intercounty referees who could at some point step in if the referee needed replacement, or that they're even qualified to run the line. They're not. They're just picked by the referee because they're people he trusts.
Oh,
that's it.
Right.
That is the level of qualification they have for deciding people's careers.
Yeah.
And so I think that's been a little bit lost in the whole, will we have VAR? Because it's like it'll be 5 years before we get a proper VAR system for every ground. And maybe they'll only have it in Croker and they won't have it in the Gaelic grounds. But in the meantime, get better umpires.
Yeah.
But they're not for turning on that either. It's like, no, the system works very well.
It's an easy thing to say, look, how often does this sort of incident rear its head? But as you say, they rear their head in career-defining moments. That's the big thing, you know. If Waterford go now in the next couple of weeks, whatever it will be, then this is defining their season. Because of how well they played, particularly after last week, and they've come back this week and played really well. They've got a few injuries, a few of the lads that were injured back. And as you say, these are big moments in people's careers. It's not just it's not just one game, and we can talk about it here on a Monday morning. This is exactly what you're saying there. Defining, so defining.
That is the point that you're making as well. One mistake, however bad, doesn't mean though that the system is broken. And then they're pointing out that, like, this is in the Irish Times today, from somebody from the GAA who doesn't identify themselves, which is unfortunate really, because it's much better if everybody just comes out and goes, yeah, I'm speaking on behalf of the GAA and this is my general thoughts. Now, it's a source within Croke Park saying this, and I don't really understand why they feel the need to hide behind anonymity, when actually what everybody needs is just to have an honest conversation. Look, lads, this is what we think. We think that it's grand because this is only the second incident in 10 years. And then we can at least know whose view the point this is. But they don't. And look, it's a small point, but why not just come out and say who you are? Anyway, we have Hawkeye in Croke Park and Semple Stadium, but we've used it less than once per game, which puts the original problem into some sort of context. Fair enough. But you have it, use it. Yeah. And when you do use it, everybody in the crowd goes, well, that's fine. We know exactly what happens.
Yeah, yeah.
They have it in Cork as well now, don't they? They're not using Cork a couple of weeks ago.
Anyway, it was in place. I saw it in one of the games recently, yeah.
I thought it was as well. Yeah. So, and I did think at the Gaelic grounds, whatever it was, maybe where the camera angle was a bit weird, the other end that this incident happened in, there was a couple of points over the course of the weekend. It's like, that wasn't a point, and it was given. Or one would be like, well wide, and like, that's exactly the same as the one that they just gave a couple of minutes ago. So there's no need for it. The organisation is plenty rich, can totally afford to have Hawkeye in a bunch of grounds, particularly where there's going to be big hurling matches played. The small ball is much harder to see than football, obviously. And improve the standard of the umpiring. But make them be referees.
It's particularly, again, with what's happening, career defining, so we know that, yeah.
Yeah, even if you were like promoting Division 3 and Division 4 referees from the Hurling Championship, this is their way to experience the big games, but the system isn't broken. You could argue that none of the footage or photographs show that the ball definitely wasn't over the line, but I don't think that's a conclusive argument. Like, come on, it's not even...
No, I know. Well, that's not an argument, is it? That isn't. You know, we from again, naked eye or watching it on TV. Again, you're not going to get a true picture until you see that replay. But it didn't look it straight away. It didn't look it.
No.
When you see that replay, and it's like and Waterford hard done by, most definitely there.
Yeah, and so who knows what the hell's going to happen to them? You really hope that they do actually manage to make it out of the group stages now. I mean, that means two brilliant teams are actually, because Waterford played really well, it means two brilliant teams are actually going to be out of the championship in just a couple of weeks' time. Let's move on to Times of Ireland. Their back page lead is a rugby story. We didn't show Ireland much respect. That's Will Genia talking about 2011, one of the survivors from 2011. Rethink over safe standing at grounds. I think that's the Times UK. No, it's the Times Ireland edition, sorry, yeah, obviously. And then the other one there was a picture of Tony Cascarino, and we sent him our very best wishes this morning because he's writing today about the fact that he has a benign brain tumour, but it is the size of a golf ball, and he's had it for 18 months, and it's pretty worrying.
Yeah, well, I think that the message from Tony basically across the piece, read it there this morning, was it's the old, I don't know, so many men do it. We'll leave it, it's grand. I won't bother with it. He started to get a hissing in his ear, started to feel or taste metal in one side of his mouth when he was chewing. You can't overlook these things. It just hits home more than ever now as well. And Tony, who we know, I know Tony very well, and it's first I'd heard about it this morning when I've read the piece. So certainly our thoughts are with him. But luckily it's benign. But he does need to take a bit of time out now. He needs to have surgery. He needs to get it sorted, and hopefully he'll come back fully recovered from it.
Yeah, he's waiting until after the World Cup as well. That's I'd be getting that done pretty straight away. Yeah. I'm going to go to the World Cup. And
but he's thinking I've waited 18 months, but I mean, you can't overlook it. This is so serious.
Yeah.
And he's waited so long before he gets it checked. He goes for the MRI scan, gets it sorted. So I said, he's waiting until after the World Cup, but hopefully he will be fine, yeah.
He said that he ended up falling down the stairs and eventually went to the doctor and blurted out to the doctor the list of symptoms that he had, and it was like, it's quite a long list of symptoms. Maybe I should have put all this together. Ultimately, to the point where he was forgetting words.
Hearing loss as well. His wife kept saying to him, or his partner kept on saying to him, "Tony, you're going deaf. Everything all right?"
Yeah.
Just he was involved in conversations with people, and if it was a night out, went out for a quiet beer, and things like this, and he wasn't able to hear people. So yeah, it's telling for us all, I suppose, as well.
Yeah.
Any sort of sign like that, yeah.
Tommy Conlon has a story there as well. Time to take GAA umpires out of the line of fire. I haven't actually read that piece yet, but I've no doubt that it is about trying to upgrade the quality of the umpires that we have at the moment. On to the Irish Times, and their main story is the Jim McGuinness column today, which is obviously pretty interesting for Jim because he knows Rory Gallagher all too well. They were, of course, a dream team partnership at one point in Donegal before they went their separate ways, and then obviously Rory got the Donegal job after Jim, and Jim used his column week after week to tell Rory how he should be doing stuff. So this time it's like, go all the way here, here and here, and then it's eventually you have to give great credit to Rory Gallagher and Fermanagh, full stop. Credit for Rory Gallagher. Eventually, most people don't really make the last few paragraphs in these pieces because they're quite long, But eventually, Jim McGuinness gives Rory Gallagher a qualified blessing. They stuck with the game plan and got a wee bit of luck with the goal that got them over the line. But they created all the key moments in that game. Got a wee bit of luck. And then there was another one. They attacked through the middle a lot in the second half, and that pulled Monaghan men in, and more by luck than design. You're like...
well, you could see the
Lord giveth with one hand and the Lord taketh away with the other.
You got to credit him, haven't you? How certainly didn't expect it, and I watched the game. It certainly wasn't a great game by any stretch of the imagination to watch, but what a performance, what a game plan. They got the result, and that is it. Ultimately, what counted. I certainly didn't expect the goal to come the way that it did anyway later on. You're thinking Monaghan, that's it, it's done in the latter stages. They get through the game, they grind it out, but credit for Fermanagh just to come back the way they did later on. It was amazing. It was a brilliant
well taken goal as well, when you kind of think that long lofted hoofed ball into the full forward line and a midfielder running in to jump. That's very much out of nowhere. It almost never happens these days because defences are so well structured and everybody's like stopping that ball happening. So the big debate is about the quality of the football, and nobody wants to watch this anymore, and it's dead. But if you're Fermanagh or if you're Carlo, you're having one of the seasons of all time because you're winning games and you're getting through. And your team is playing a style of football that makes you competitive in matches.
That's the way it has to be, doesn't it? It has to be. It's different styles, and you only relate it to my own career, but playing football, different styles, and I would never dismiss someone who's going to play defensive tactics to try and get the results. You work with the players you've got, and you work with those players to get the necessary results, and that's what it is all about. That essentially, that's the way it is, and you've got to admire people when they're actually using certain tactics or different tactics, because it does make it interesting. It doesn't make it great watch. It doesn't make it a great spectacle at times. I think we'll all accept that, but it certainly makes it interesting going into certain games.
We ever on teams that didn't accept that they were inferior but tried to play football that was at a too high a level? Do you know what I mean? An open game as opposed to, okay, this team are slightly better than us, they've got more talented players, let's just dig in, let's be intelligent.
I probably would say that we knew our limitations wherever I was, but I definitely can relate to Fermanagh in many respects there. So I would have played in sides where you go into Old Trafford, you go into Arsenal, and you're playing against really good sides.
What are you going to do?
Exactly. Tell you what, we're going to go toe to toe to them, and you're getting played around.
You take Ronaldo, I'll take Tevez. Sure, we'll be grand.
Yeah. Exactly, but that's exactly what it was. I remember I played in a game at Old Trafford once, and it was at Sunderland, and we had a game plan where it was trying to be a bit more man for man. So I was actually playing the left-hand side of midfield, and basically what it was the two fullbacks had to push in with Man United's two wide men. I think it probably was Beckham at the time. I think it would have been Beckham and Giggs, perhaps. I'm guessing there a little bit to an extent, but. Basically, it was to try to squeeze in. It was just because that was where United seemed to get the overloads on you with the two wide men coming in. So it was squeezing, go man for man. My job then as a left-hand side, or the right-hand side, I was playing the left-hand side, was to stay with the full-back. Within about 5 minutes of the game, Phil Neville had run off my shoulder because you're so used to playing a certain way. Pass him on to the full-back. He got a yard on me. Phil Neville goes through. Phil Neville probably scored 2 goals in his whole career. One of them was a mistake by me that actually gifted him a goal. So your game plan's gone then, isn't it? And that's what can happen. That's the way that it is. So it's. So
you ruined weeks and weeks of preparation. It's
it was a full week's preparation.
Oh, that's what you meant. Follow him on. Good lad. Yeah.
I was on my knees. I was just like, oh God, and that was it. Knowing full well what was about to be said to me at half time, even though I had 40 minutes or so to go till half time. Peter Reid in my ear, Peter Reid at the time. Bobby Saxton was his assistant as well. So anyway, there you go.
Notoriously polite gentleman as well. Peter Reid.
Yeah.
They'd be looking out for your mental health.
Yeah, anyone who saw that documentary on those two will know exactly what Sacco and Peter Eder are about, yeah.
The Irish Examiner this morning have Kerry Gold, a look at the best golf courses in the kingdom, and then they obviously have Simon Lewis down under as well. He's making the point that the Wallabies won't underestimate Ireland like 2011, and then referees chief backs calls for VAR, which I guess is the point that VAR is definitely going to help, but improving the quality of the umpires, we may as well do these two things when you get the chance at the same time. So the Irish news: Tyrone injury crisis before Meath, Sludden in line for debut as Tyrone bolster squad. I don't know, suddenly the Meath people in the office are feeling a bit cocky and confident ahead of this.
Yeah,
Tommy was like,
yeah,
Jesus lads, this Tyrone team,
we've got a chance. We've got a chance. Yeah, I think that's what it is, isn't it? You know, you drop 3 or 4 players. We even saw it with Waterford the last couple of weeks when they've been playing. You get 3, 4, 5 injuries, and all of a sudden it makes a massive difference because you're taking top class players out the side. And I think Tommy will be looking forward to this one now, won't he?
Yeah, I don't know. I still think that Tyrone are going to kick 116, 117.
You would think
can Meath kick 116 or 117?
You think they'd be strong? You think they'd be too strong? Yeah.
3-9, Tommy reckons they can score.
Is it? Logic suggests that Tyrone will win, but we'll see.
Yeah. And then the Racing Post, their lead story is the jockey Andrew Thornton has decided to retire. Something about a wake-up call at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he was like, oh, why am I still doing this?
Yeah.
Had enough of this. He's had 1,000 winners. I don't know Andrew Thornton very well, but 1,000 winners in his career.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Good Cheltenham record as well, yeah.
So you can see that for a lot of sports people, at some point the alarm goes off and you're like, no, I'm hitting snooze and rolling over.
I know, it is. That is the thing. And when you watch the documentary, when you get the little insight into Tony McCoy when he was when I was coming the last year of his riding career, and you're thinking the lengths that they go to. Yeah. But he actually would have carried on. It was almost like people around him telling him, come on, you've got to back away from this. He's killing you, but what they do, the jockeys, they're just phenomenal athletes, phenomenal sportsmen, really, and women.
Yeah. What have you got first?
I've got the Herald here. Sky Blue Exodus. 4 of the players opting out of the panel. There's still word on Dermot Connolly, but 4 have confirmed. Kieran Redding, Shane Carthy, Eamon
O'Conneilla.
Yeah, O'Conneilla, yeah, there you go. Thanks for that, Joe. And Shane Carthy as well, yeah. So 4 lads confirmed to be opting out of the panel this year for Dublin. So I think in general, they're going to America, as well, this summer. So it's...
it doesn't matter in terms of the starting 15 or maybe even the first group off the bench, but the thing that we've heard about Dublin over the years is that their training sessions are savage, that the lads who are close are putting the pressure on the first team. If you take out the second tier of midfielders, then suddenly the first choice midfielders are like, well, who are you going to pick?
Yeah.
Picking me. You need me. So
that is, you can imagine how you know how competitive it is with the Dublin panel. They're unbelievably strong. Yes, but again, we go back to the fact is, where we talk about the amount of training. We just talked about Andrew Thornton. The amount of training that these lads are doing without getting the rewards, without getting game time. What are you going to do in the summer? Are you going to have, a chance to earn a few quid?
Exactly, and have the summer of your life in the States. Those J1 summers are where you grow up a good bit. But this year there's a good chance everybody will get game time because of the Super 8s.
Yeah.
There's a good chance that the Dubs win their first 2 Super 8s, and then so that last game is a bit of a dead rubber.
But then what do you do? We've seen this before with so many. What do you do? Are you going to just strip the team back and say, I'll tell you what, we're going to make 8-10 changes? It's not necessarily easy to do that to get back up to speed again. That's personally what I would feel. Maybe that's a fair point, and it will be like 3 weeks before an All-Ireland semi-final. But if you don't feel you're getting game time except in a dead rubber, then fair enough. You may as well head off and have a summer. Yeah. Also, it's John O'Shea as well. In the John O'Shea continues his career at Reading as well. That's also in the Herald. John O'Shea, of course, retiring this weekend from international football. Quite surprising. I'd heard it the back end of last week that he was in at Reading. Yeah. Finished his career now at Sunderland. So I would presume, or Paul Clement as well, who's just taken over towards the back end of the season there. Obviously going to rely on John's experience, but I just think that maybe he could be with an eye on a coaching position there at Reading as well. I think that's got to be something that's in John O'Shea's mind. He's spoken openly about it in the last week or so. It's not close to Sunderland, is it? Reading? No. It's not like so they're moving. Heathrow. Yeah, no, it's the other end of the.
So you've got to up sticks and move the whole family and.
Yeah, it's a big one for him, particularly young family. He said he's got one on the way as well. So it's a big move for John. That one is, but that's the way that it is. If you're going to, he could have guarantees. Again, I don't know. He may just want to just solely be focused on playing for the course of this year, this season or next season. But I think that's got to be with a mindset on his further career and where he's going to be going to in his coaching career. I think that's probably the way that it is.
Alongside Paul McShane at Reading as well?
Paul McShane, I was talking to Paul, played in golf, McShane's golf day, Paul and John, his brother. He's the memory of his dad yesterday down at Druids Glen, so I was playing in that yesterday, so it was quite a good day actually, yeah.
Paul McShane playing for Ireland again sometime soon? He refused to retire here on Friday morning.
Oh, yeah, he's still young enough, and he's seeing players that's coming in from League One, and the level that he was performing at Reading over the last couple of years. He deserves to be involved. He was involved in the Denmark game. Don't forget, that's the thing that we maybe overlook at times as well. So he's still around it, yeah. So there you go. Good stuff. Next one in the mirror as well. This is the one that stood out for me over the weekend as well. Pep has a problem. Pep Guardiola, Yaya Toure speaking out this weekend, has a problem with African players. I mean, this is a big one, I think, really as well. You mean, because this is a big criticism of Pep Guardiola here. This is a massive one. He's saying to him, he was cruel to me. He asked him if I was fit, and I asked myself if it was because of my colour. I mean, you're banding that out about someone. You're throwing that out about someone. This is a big one. Now, I think Yaya Toure is involved in the Soccer Aid game next weekend at Old Trafford. Is he been asked to do a series of interviews around it? Obviously getting asked about Pep Guardiola and what happened and why he hasn't played enough over the last couple of seasons. But that's almost like he's throwing one out there. Now, I mean, there's reference as well within the piece as well on how he treated Samuel Eto'o, how he treated Naby Keita as well at Barcelona. You know, so he said this was a big talking point around the Barcelona dressing room. So I don't know where Pep Guardiola is going to have to come out quite quickly, I think, to try to distance himself from this and try to put it right, because that's not great. It's not great at all, Jay.
There's no dressing it up. It's a serious accusation of racism.
Massive.
And none of the papers are actually kind of using that word because they don't want to, but that's what he is accusing him of. He's accusing him of making decisions based on the colour of his skin and the fact that he's from Africa. So, there is no two ways around that. It's an unbelievably serious accusation from Yaya.
They've talked about being cruel. Wondering whether it was because of the colour of my skin.
Yaya's pissed off that he didn't get the send-off from Manchester City that he felt someone like Buffon or Iniesta got from Juventus and Barcelona respectively, but he wasn't good enough to be in the team over the last year, and so it's harder to, you can't just kind of have this testimonial end to the season when it's a player who is actually a bit part player who's kind of being happily left.
Yeah, I agree with that. Personally, watching Pep Guardiola in the last season under Pellegrini, he wasn't good enough. He wasn't good. He wasn't at the level that he'd been prior to that. So Guardiola's recognised that. He's seen him. He didn't necessarily fit into the way that he played. But then to throw that about, 2 years down the line after not getting that game time, that's a biggie. That is a biggie. Yeah. Also as well in the start against lead off again, Pep was cruel. Marco Silva in at Everton. That's the one here now that obviously just announced over the weekend. He said he won't stand in Wayne Rooney's way if he were to leave the club.
No,
clearly that's on you go, Wayne. Yeah, you're on $5 million a year. This is going to give me more of a budget, or maybe 2 players, I suppose.
Here's the keys to the car. Off you go.
Yeah, exactly. So that's an interesting one, I think, with Wayne. Probably Wayne, if he maybe thinks about now, he maybe should have gone last summer. When he came in, it was a big thing going back into Everton. I understand it maybe, and because he's in there now, personally, I would like him to stay and maybe try and develop maybe within the academy. But if he wants to carry on playing, probably he knows his legs are not up to the speed of the Premier League, and we've probably seen that over the last few years, haven't we? That's been the thing with Wayne.
It was pretty clear. It was a bad signing. It didn't make any sense. But I don't know, apparently they're not paying that much of the wages. They're paying a portion of the wages, and it's Man United paying a portion of the wages. And if he goes to Washington, it was going to be a bit by Washington, a bit by Everton, a bit by Man United still. So, nobody really wants to pay Wayne Rooney to wander around the place.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is effectively what he's doing.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's just it's get it sorted, I suppose, as well. Wayne Rooney's and Sam Allardyce's relationship didn't seem to be clicking at all. Certainly in the last few months of the season, Wayne Rooney's probably not happy. He's not been playing, but the performances suggest that it's probably been right. So I think that's a good move for him. I think that's a good move for him to finish off his career as well. Also, Joe Brolly in the Star as well, talking about Jim Gavin. Jim Gavin has crushed Dermot Connolly confidence-wise last season. That's why he sees him walking away again and
not playing while Jim is still the manager.
Yeah. That's the one there as well. In the Sun as well, VAR for the course. That's the one again that we're seeing there. But where's the other one? Sorry, there from that one. What's he saying there? Tommy's saying something to me here. They're trying to get something. I can't even hear him as well. And again, Yaya Toure as well. That was the one. And the Leroy Sané. That was the one. Sorry, the Leroy Sané one. The suggestion, Leroy Sané's omission from the Germany squad. Now, again, something we get into, I suppose, on it. But the suggestion is ego from Leroy Sané. He doesn't fit tactically into the squad. Germany now play a 3-5-2. Doesn't necessarily fit tactically in the squad, but more so, he doesn't fit within the squad for off the field. Basically, he has too big an ego. That is the suggestion from Joachim Löw, the Germany manager.
We'll get into
quite interesting, given how good he was as well.
We'll get into a few more details on that in just a couple of minutes' time. But there is some breaking news this morning that there's been a serious incident at Bray Boxing Club where 3 men are alleged to have been shot. 3 men are believed to have been seriously injured and shot at the Bray Boxing Club in the Harbour in Bray, County Wicklow. The incident happened at around 6:55 a.m. this morning. The suspect left the scene in a white or silver van, possibly a Ford make, and bearing British number plates. Gardaí are appealing for witnesses to contact Bray Garda Station, and there's the number 01666 5300. Of course, Bray Boxing Club in County Wicklow was made world famous by the success that Katie Taylor had from her time as an amateur boxing from Bray Boxing Club. So we'll follow this story. Obviously, Katie Taylor hasn't been boxing there for a number of years now since she turned pro, but that is the statement this morning from the Gardaí about the shooting at Bray Boxing Club, and the 3 men are believed to be seriously injured. So we'll obviously try and come back to that a little bit later on with some more details, and obviously you'll get more details across all of our social media channels as that story develops. Now, we'll talk football, we'll talk a bit more about Leroy Sané and all the rest of the stuff, but I want to bring you this. Declan Rice, after his man of the match performance against the US, he spoke with Off the Ball's Jamie Moore.
No, it was just, he was on TalkSport talking, and it's one of them things, he's just come out and said it. I'm not going to take too much by it, he can say that, obviously that's his opinion, but I'm here tonight, I'm playing for Ireland, and, I've just been focused on doing that, playing in the Turkey and France game.
Yeah, the assistant manager Roy Keane spoke to us during the week, and he said he was very surprised by the comments that you're Irish and you're playing for Ireland, which all of us Irish people were happy to hear. You do see yourself as an Irish international, and hopefully once that competitive debut comes, it'll be the end of the question. Yeah,
I think it was off topic, for him to come out and say that. I did hear Roy's interview the other day, but I don't try to think too much about it. I don't want to take too much pressure onto myself or put pressure on myself. Just want to keep playing, enjoying my football, and playing with a smile on my face, and I think that's the main thing I've got to do.
From the point of view of you as an Ireland player, 3 games in since the Turkey game, you look like you've been playing for a number of years, let alone 3 games. How do you feel you've settled in, because it looks like you've just taken to it really, really well?
Yeah, no, I think it's because I've been around club men football for quite a while now. Playing with top players, coming here playing with top players, and it's nice integrating with different types of players, from different teams, and I'm learning off different players and what we can do better and what I can do better individually, and I think that's why on the pitch I feel so confident, because I believe in my ability to get on the ball and get us playing. And
just finally for me, it's a new period for Ireland with the likes of John O'Shea retiring and others. Do you really feel that there's a chance for you to nail a place in the squad, whether that be at centre back, a back 3 or a midfield?
Yeah, the manager's been playing me in midfield. Turkey game he played me at the back, and it's up to him where he wants to play me in the future. Like I said, I just want to keep playing and getting minutes under my belt and playing international football. I think that's the main objective.
Yeah, it's great to hear a young Irish footballer self-confident enough to go, yeah, I'm going to play. I'm going to play where the manager wants me to play. But not like, it'll be up to him to pick me and I'll just be glad to be in the squad. It's like, yeah, I'm going to play because I'm really good.
And he wants to take the ball. He wants to change play. He wants to pass forward. He's doing things that, frankly, our midfielders haven't been doing for a long time. and maybe Martin O'Neill, we played three at the back, and he spoke about the Turkey game as well, where he played Declan Rice himself, where he played in the back three, looked excellent, stepped into midfield, looked even better, started the last couple of games in midfield, and he's been the standout player. 19, we talk about putting too much pressure on the players, but if he wants to play, wants to enjoy it, just go with it. I mean, there's no
Get as many of those lads in the team as you can.
Totally. You can clearly tell he's confident. He's not brash. He's not overly confident. He's just, I want to take it. Look, this is where I've played. I've come through a system where I'm comfortable on the ball. I want to be part of this squad. Clearly, he enjoys being around the Irish squad. Clearly, he enjoys even being part of Noel King's under 21 squad, where he's played senior football the following few days. He's joined back up with Noel King's under 21s. He wants to be part of something, so just let him play. He's good enough. He's more than good enough now. He's performing. If you see his ball for the second goal that we scored, how many times do you see a ball when it's played back to a full-back or to a midfield player, the position he was, you just swing a cross in, and he had the vision and the awareness just to cut it back to James McLean, then create the goal for Alan Judge, the last-minute winner. It's just quality. He's a quality footballer, so he has to play now. And it's not. I wouldn't want to say I wouldn't want to be as strong and say you build your team around him, but it's almost the fact is now you go. I'll tell you what. Now if we're playing three midfielders, if we're playing two midfielders, he will be part of a 3 or a 2 in midfield now. That's the way it seems to me.
As opposed to in the defence, because actually he's more valuable to us there now.
Well, you can play him in a 3 at the back, but personally, I'd want to play him further forward simply because of how he created the second goal. We've not had I think that has been the key area we've been lacking, Ger, over the last couple of years, and I really think that. I think we've gone so much, I think probably overboard at times on Wes Hoolahan, because he's the player that's able to take the ball, and whether that be drive forward with it, but he's certainly one that would always take the ball. We've not had midfield players prepared to take the ball, I think, and then be prepared when they get on the ball to switch the play, take it on the back foot, take it away from where opposition are, and switch play, passing forward. I don't think we've done it enough. Declan Rice, particularly in the second half, he was just doing it with just such ease. So I would prefer to see him play with how he played at the weekend in midfield,
Yeah. Any concerns about the fact that there's been that change in manager at club level, and a new manager comes in, it's like, well, I'm playing a 19-year-old in the Premier League. No, I'm not. I'm going to go with the guy that I'm going to spend 15 million.
Pellegrini's got the remit of turning him into an England centre half, hasn't he, Declan Rice? So we'll see how that one goes. But there's a concern. There's always a tendency when a new manager comes in, particularly a manager of Pellegrini's standing, is to get more experienced players in. They'll see the age rather than the talent.
Yeah.
And they'll get somebody else in potentially who is substandard on, certainly as equal, or if certainly not better than Declan Rice. And there's always a tendency to go with that player because of the experience. Because he's 19, because of his age, there's always a tendency to overlook that. But I personally think now he's proved it now, that's it.
And West Ham at least have that track record of developing talent.
Yeah.
And they'll want to develop, especially with the situation with regards to the stadium being such a shit show over the last 12 months that they need something to point to and say, no, we're bringing our own players through, we're hanging our hat on this guy, even though he made some mistakes towards the end of last season, he's recovered from them. And sorry, that was the other thing. It was like, so it was somebody who came off the back of a brilliant season with a few mistakes at the end of the year, and then it was like, no, I'm really confident I'm playing here.
Yeah,
none of that sense of hangover from that.
He spoke about his mistakes that he made in the lead up to the France game last week. Just saying, I made mistakes. That's the way that it is, and he did. But that's just the way that it is. Everybody at his age, everyone across a career, no matter what age you are, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make howlers. That's going to cost goals, particularly if you're a centre half. If he's playing the position that he is, I think that shows his maturity and the responsibility that's maybe been given to him for West Ham, and how much belief they've got in him, that they're actually prepared to go, tell you what, we're going to play centre half, we're in a relegation battle, and we're playing you.
Well, because we had this debate, Johnny Ward was sitting there and he was like, he thought that David Moyes had thrown him under the bus. I actually, when you read the quotes, it felt like David Moyes had thrown him under the bus about the young lad making the mistake and you just got to clear it. But actually when you heard him say it, he was calm enough about it. It was like, he made mistakes. And rather than pretending it didn't happen, this is the Premier League, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to get called out for them, and he bounced back from them. So ultimately I think that Moyes handled the whole situation quite well in that respect, but
And he does. He
David Moyes
he's very good. He was very good defensive coach as well, David Moyes. So he'll know. He would have learnt a lot from David Moyes, maybe in the short space of time he's been with him. Yeah.
Anything else from the Ireland game before we move on?
Well, I think I just look at Neil O'Regan has done a good piece actually about the who's played well, who maybe needs to improve. Shane Duffy, of course, the usuals. Kevin Long, who's maybe starting to establish himself in a three. If they're going to play three at the back, it's looking. Kevin Long is now looking like it's going to be the preferred. Whether if we're playing in a two, preferred partner Shane Duffy. Impressive. Callum O'Dowd's the one that impressed me at the weekend. He was another one. Darryl Hogan came off the bench and did well. Actually, he played 25, maybe 30 minutes. Made a big impression. Particularly, the suggestion is he's going to be leaving Preston as well, so he needs a move. So. Certainly good for him, but I was particularly impressed with Callum O'Dowd over the two games, particularly on Saturday, with his ability to drive forward from midfield. Again, if we're playing a three-man midfield, and Rice will be one of those, I suggest, Callum O'Dowd are looking to me like he's starting to take a claim for himself to be playing in that midfield now.
Okay, so the new Ireland is beginning to take shape. If it is a three-man defence, is that more likely that he'll stick Rice in and actually go with...
Possibly, but I don't know. I mean, at the weekend we've got Lenihan, we've got Duffy, yes, we've got Long. We've got enough, I think, defensively. Certainly as a back three where I think you can actually you can think, yeah, we've got enough here. I mean, Matt Doherty was one that missed out the weekend. Probably a little bit unfortunate to miss out as well. We had Enda Stevens, who's played a lot of games in the Championship for Sheffield United this season as well. We've got enough defensive experience, I feel, there, where you're actually. Look, let's try and get on the ball and get a player who's prepared to take the ball, push Rice forward and play. If you're playing, you could see why he played Declan Rice in a back three, because he's the one that's going to step in. He's the one that maybe start attacks going forward. But with what he did for that second goal, suggests to me that you might need to play him a bit further forward. That's my only thing with it, I suppose, really, yeah.
Yeah, all right. I want to move on to the Lars Karius situation, where it has emerged that Karius has suffered a concussion in that incident with Sergio Ramos in the Champions League final. Fenway Sports Group flew him over to Massachusetts and had him analysed by the top concussion doctors there, who obviously would be working, I think, with the New England Patriots. And they've released this statement. What's the purpose of the statement, do you think, and what will the longer and medium term impact on the sport itself be? Let's talk about why they've done this.
Yeah, well that is football in general has basically turned its back on concussion for probably too long now. It has. It's the old adage, he's grand, you're fine, get on with it. You know, lads have taken an elbow, taken a knock to the head. It's just get on with it. Basically, it is. That's what it is. Now, bearing in mind, yes, we rarely see this type of incident. It won't necessarily be a regular occurrence in every game, but when it happens, you've got to actually respect it. We have to respect, I think, concussion in general. I think across the game, and it hasn't necessarily been the case. Certainly across the course of my career, certainly since I've finished, there's a reluctancy to even talk about it. There's a reluctancy to even recognise it at times. So I think this highlights an issue that's been swept under the carpet for too long. That's the overriding factor, probably, from it. Now, yeah, you mentioned there, he went to Boston to get analysed by the Liverpool owners' own doctors, their specialist team. The cynic within me would say the only way he would actually recover as a Liverpool player if this sort of statement was released on his behalf because of the way that it actually happened in the game, because of the disastrous final that he's had. Immediately in the aftermath, you're thinking, could he play for Liverpool again? If he plays and he has a few decent games, yes, okay, but there'll always be that nagging thought in Liverpool supporters' mind is that final, and if he does make a slight mistake or he makes a slight error, that nervousness, that tension will still be created. And it almost, if that was his Liverpool career finished. So this with this statement, it does give him some sort of way out, some sort of chance to progress again.
Completely, right? I mean, that like absolutely gives him the opportunity to re-establish himself next season as a valuable footballer and as somebody with a career. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, I did have a horrific experience where I completely lost the flight of the ball and where I didn't see that there was a giant human being 2 feet from me that I threw the ball off. Like, you know, it makes perfect sense if you're concussed that you would be making those mistakes. It doesn't speak very well of the game itself that he didn't feel, or that the Liverpool bench didn't think, look, Sergio Ramos just whacked him one with let's check.
I actually didn't see it during the game. It was something that they totally overlooked, and it's only then when the pictures then came back, particularly after the Salah incident with Ramos, that you're thinking, look, he's totally hijacked Liverpool's chances of winning a Champions League final here. But when you see it, you can see it clearly. He goes into him, he smashes Karius. Basically, he does Karius. Very lucky to stay on. Not as much the Salah incident. Personally, you knew exactly what he was doing within that, but I wouldn't necessarily think that was a sending off offence. But that one was, because he's done him. He's done Karius. When you see the pictures back, see it in slow motion, he has done Karius, and Karius clearly felt it, As you say, the suggestion is that, well, I personally think along the sort of lines of view, why on earth haven't the medics tested him out? Now, he asked the player, how are you feeling? The player would always say, 99 times out of 100 is, I'm fine to get on with it, no problems at all, no issues, no worries. So that is the thing. It's more the other side of it.
Well, let me play you this, because I think the other side of it is exactly this. I'll just show you this rather. It's Chris Sutton. This is a screen grab from him. He's speaking on 5 Live. We can, I think, just read this. I think it should have been kept under wraps. Chris Sutton, this is him. There's a video that 5 Live have posted on Twitter this morning. And Chris Sutton is a really interesting pundit, but he's basically making the case that there's no reason for this information to become public. And then David Priest, the goalkeeper who we had on the show last week, says, not sure why it shouldn't be known if Karius is a genuine concussion. This only emphasises and continues the culture of covering up concussion at the risk of long-term damage.
Yeah.
Sutton's attitude is the old school, this is nobody's business. And Priest goes on, we stick that one up as well, To be fair to Karius, the first time I was concussed, I couldn't remember being hit by Mark Viduka and showed no visible signs of concussion apart from a short-term memory loss that lasted 48 hours, days, and ended hospitalised for 4 days and unable to train for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I lost the 2 following days in the previous 24 hours from my memory after that incident and suffered 7 subsequent concussions over the years, made susceptible by just a glancing blow from a knee. Don't mess about with head injuries.
Yeah, that is a thing. It's across the course of my career, I don't recall too many. I don't recall anyone who's missed games with concussion when clearly they would have been concussed at some stage. Clearly, across a 20-year career, I probably would have been concussed myself without actually realising that I actually was.
When the ball lands in your head and you get under the flight of the ball, you see stars. That's a concussion.
Yeah,
that's exactly what that is.
How many times we've seen it? Someone's lining up to smash a free kick, and someone just sticks the head down like that, expecting, and you just get a crack, and you see stars. It is. That's exactly what it is. You get that minute or two after where you're actually dazed and you don't realise what's happening, and. Minute or two, who's to say it's not 10 minutes, but you're thinking it's quick. David Priest has got the tone right there, I feel, because it has been overlooked for too long, and particularly from keepers, when goalkeepers are going up, it was always the old one. Put it up on the keeper, he's not great on crosses, let's get bodies around him, let's lay one on him, and that's the way that it's always been, and he would have felt it more than ever. Maybe someone like David Priest, he's felt that, he's been cracked, and it doesn't take much then after it. As you said, what they say, eight or so concussions after that incident. It isn't great at all. It's not. And that's with Karius, yes. Just in relation to what Chris Sutton is saying there, Chris Sutton said he doesn't see the benefit in actually getting this out. Of course, there's a benefit. It's the Fenway Sports Group by getting this out. They're protecting an asset. They're protecting their own interest. Of course, they're protecting Karius for the human side of it.
They're explaining the inexplicable.
Yeah. They have to do something. They felt they may be compelled to get this checked out, to get him sorted, and this gives him a way out. That's the thing I would say with Karius. It gives him a chance to go and progress now and play some more games.
And hopefully makes people more conscious of the fact that concussion is a serious thing. It's a proper brain injury. You need to be really careful with it.
Yeah.
It's treatable if it's diagnosed, but if you don't diagnose it and keep pretending that it isn't there, it's going to make it much worse. Let's talk about Sané not being in the German squad. Great pictures of his poster being torn down. This is, I think, the German Football Museum, because he's not in the squad. There was just an assumption that he would be, I think, when you've got a talent like Leroy Sané. Surely you bring him to a tournament, you let him bed into the squad, you show him the culture, if not for now, at least for 2 and 4 years down the line when he should be one of the best players in your team.
Well, that's the thing. If you think back to Germany in 2006 and it was an experimental squad for them, and they were brilliant. You know, so many youngsters that went through and played the next couple of tournaments for them. They were just incredible, weren't they? If you think back to that was always the German ethos, or certainly the most recent one. It was like, let's give these lads time.
Yogi Love was in the backroom team in 06. He was Clinton's assistant.
He was. And then, of course, he took over it immediately. Then you're looking at 10 and, of course, winning it in 14 and how they actually won it. I think we looked at him in the Premier League this season and we were thinking this lad could be one of the stars of the tournament. I wasn't really too aware of the fact is that he's not really fit into how Yuki Love has played in the last year or two. The system that they're playing now at the moment doesn't necessarily suit him, and he feels as though that he's got backup wingers as it is, and if necessary, he doesn't necessarily see Leroy Sané as being that fifth choice. That was a thing. So he felt as though that I could actually go with somebody else to bring him in and leave him out. The other suggestion as well, and this is the one Rafa Honigstein actually wrote a piece on ESPN as well around this one, saying that yes, he doesn't fit in tactically, doesn't necessarily fit in other ways, but it's more off the field. It's more he doesn't fit in within that group, within that squad. He doesn't feel as though that Sané's attitude is perhaps, there was a suggestion that Sané's attitude within there, perhaps maybe he's got an ego, perhaps a little bit big time. That is the suggestion of Sané, and that's why Yuki Love has left him out.
Which I guess if you are in charge of a team that's won the World Cup, you're like, do we really need a big time Charlie around here? I mean, everybody else has World Cup winners medals.
Particularly when you're away for 6 weeks. You're away for 6 weeks potentially. If you win the World Cup, you're away for 6 weeks. If there is any sort of ego, if there is any suggestion that he doesn't quite fit in within that squad, yes, I understand it to an extent. We only need to look at Deschamps that he did with what's the lad that played at Arsenal and Man City. I'll tell you in a sec now. Tommy will probably be in me in a sec here, but he left him out anyway. He left him out the squad. The suggestion was, no, he doesn't fit in with my squad, doesn't fit in with my plans. Big time Charlie. Don't like him, not having him in the squad. We're away for a major tournament, that was in the Euros, and we're not going to pick him. That was it. Karim Benzema's a different issue, I suppose, as well with that one, with France. We know that, but certainly it was...
Dallas?
No. City and Arsenal. He's still playing. The lad that went off to America and got the drug thing and got the...
Sami Nasri.
Sami Nasri, there you go.
Yeah.
I always forget these names. So that was what Didier Deschamps did. Attitude was wrong, didn't pick him. So I understand it a little bit to an extent around major tournaments like this. But imagine having that talent to come off the bench if you're struggling for a goal. Change the system. Let's get him into the game.
Yeah.
It's a big one. It's a big one.
It doesn't feel like the tactical thing holds up less to me.
Yeah, the tactical one doesn't sit with me at all. It's certainly that has been suggested in a number of papers today, and a few of the online stuff that you'd read. A bit of the online stuff you'd read is his attitude is the big thing why Jurgen Love's left him out.
All right, no doubt more will come out about that. Now let's move on to hurling. Denis Walsh of the Sunday Times is standing by. We're going to talk to him in 1 minute. Just want to play you this first. It's James O'Connor's immediate reaction at the Gaelic grounds on Sunday after Tip's ghost goal against Waterford. I got them back in the game.
We saw a bit of everything in this game, didn't we?
Unbelievable, Oisín. And it's a pity, I suppose it's a controversy that's maybe going to hog the headlines tomorrow morning, because there was some fantastic hurling play from both sides. Tip dead and buried, 10 points down. Look, no way back for them. They were struggling, but the first goal gave them a real lifeline, and the second goal obviously is will create the headlines tomorrow morning. I mean, to me at the time it didn't look like it was over the line, and the umpire made a huge call, and my sympathy, I suppose, with the referee. I suppose he has to trust his officials, and it's just a pity, I suppose, that it's what's going to dominate the headings, and Waterford are very right to feel aggrieved with that decision.
That said, I put it to Derek McGrath that when you're 10-11 points up midway through the second half of a match, you should win it. And he said, you're absolutely right, and we'll have to look at that. How did they not win this game?
I suppose they went 15 minutes without a score, I think, in the second half. They couldn't buy a score. Tip had all the momentum. Brennan Maher was outstanding, I think, in the tip half backline. Pádraig Maher finally started to impose his will and get involved in the play. Cathal Barrett made a difference. Bonner made a huge impact when he came on. And Waterford just took maybe one or two little wrong options, just couldn't get the ball probably to the shooters in the right areas. But when Pádraig Mahoney got that fantastic score, it seemed to steady the ship Jake Dillon put them, I think, too clear, and you think they're going to see it out from here. But I suppose a good credit to Tip. They kept finding a way, I suppose, to keep themselves in the match.
That's James O'Connor and Oisin Langan at the Gaelic grounds on Sunday. Now, Denis Walsh of the Sunday Times is with us to talk to us generally about the Munster Hurling Championship, and we'll get to that in a minute. But first, I just want to talk briefly about everybody's kind of shared reaction to this. There's a notion that some form of video assistant referee would help us here, but the fundamentals, it seems to me, are that if we could improve the quality of umpiring, then maybe we wouldn't need the video assistant referee, Denis.
These referees kind of come through the ranks with the same umpires. They start at a low level, obviously club level, and they tend to have a kind of a loyal band with them who've been there the whole way through. So, all kinds of games where, these guys are given their time, and they've stayed with the referee. And when the referee kind of reaches the big time, they're loath to desert them. Sometimes these umpires just aren't fit for the top level. I mean, you see there. We saw it even in Thurles 2 weeks ago, Joe, where Hawkeye was called into use a couple of times when Hawkeye wasn't needed at all. But the umpires just didn't feel confident in their judgment. And there are training courses for umpires in Croke Park. I don't believe they're compulsory, but from what I gather, they're well attended. These guys on Sunday made a huge mistake, and Brian Gavin did a very interesting column. The former referee did a very interesting column yesterday in the Irish Examiner, where he put it out bluntly to Alan Kelly that he's not going to he's potentially going to suffer in the future if he doesn't change his umpires.
Yeah, and I understand the desire for people to reward those lads who've been on the same journey as them, but at the same time, it's Derek McGrath's entire managerial career. It's this Waterford team's future in this year's All-Ireland Championship that's on the line, and that has to trump any local loyalties that a referee would have to his umpires.
Yeah, I suppose, that's the amateur element of the GAA writ large there. These are guys who have given up their time. Umpires don't get expenses. Umpires they might get a meal on Sunday. I'm not even too sure that they do. I mean, the referees get the expenses, umpires get nothing. So, these, and yet, he needs four of them, and he's going to need four of them for club games for the rest of the summer. So, unless the GAA kind of takes it out of the referees' hands, I suppose, is really the point, where for inter-county games, they appoint other referees to be umpires. There are enough referees in the system for them to appoint referees as umpires and take it out of the referees' hands. But the kind of system as it currently exists is that these guys are needed by referees 12 months of the year. So when Alan Kelly goes back to do ordinary club games, which he will do in Galway, these are the guys that he'll have with him.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's fair enough that when he's doing those games, or even if he's doing league matches or Walsh Cup matches or whatever it is, that's fair enough. But once you get to championship matches, there are definitely Division 3 and Division 4 hurling referees who no doubt would benefit from the experience of that match day, of going up and seeing what it was like at the Gaelic grounds on Saturday or Thurles on a Sunday, wherever it is, whatever those matches are, Croker for an All-Ireland final, that actually you're part of that panel and getting that experience, and that's kind of part of your step up through the grades. But look, I don't want to labour the point too much, because it was just a bit of a disaster from Waterford's perspective. You definitely feel like they were going to be able to see that game out if there hadn't been that massive shot in the arm again for Tip just when they needed it most. Maybe to kind of come out from that and talk a little bit about the context of the entire Munster Championship so far. It feels like this might be the greatest Munster Championship of all time.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. It's been absolutely terrific. And as you know, Ger, there's a lot of mythology around Munster Championship, and especially around Munster finals. And this really got under the skin of the Gerald Nan and these people on those emerging teams in the mid-90s, because the Munster Championship was all about Cork and Tip and a bit of Limerick, and that was the history of the Munster Championship, and that was the history of Munster finals, and that was kind of the basis of the mythology. But what we have at the moment are 5 really good teams at the same time. There's a real equalising of standards in Munster, and then we have a system that brings out that level of excellence and that level of competition, which we haven't always had. I mean, Munster was often tiered. Even though there's only 5 teams, it was often tiered. You know, you'd have 2, you'd have a middle team, and then 2 weak teams, and that was the way it was for decades and for generations. But at the moment, that's not the way it is. There's 5 really strong teams at the same time at a really high level, and this new system, you know, has really brought it out. And like when you think of the waste for decades upon decades when we'd straight knock out and we didn't have access to all these games, and you know, a guy like Shane Ahern, who played for Waterford in the 80s and early 90s and was involved later on with Gerald McCarthy. Shane Ahern played 5 championship matches in his first 5 years with Waterford. That was what he got. I mean, this year there are Waterford players who are going to play 4 games in 4 weeks. So it was an absolute waste the way hurling was and football was set up. I think there's a really good system there now. It needs to be tweaked. Everyone is saying that, but you know, it's been a brilliant championship so far.
The tweaks are all fairly obvious. Give everybody a week off in the middle, stretch it out 1 extra week, just schedule it so that nobody actually plays 4 weeks in a row. Maybe have a relegation playoff between the bottom team and Munster and Leinster, and so that at least the sense of fairness is re-established, and away we go. It's like, you know, this is definitely going to be what happens in the future. The one thing I suppose is whether or not the Munster final and Leinster final end up meaning as much year on year over a long period of time. We'll just have to wait and see for that. But
yeah, people had the same worry about whether these games would mean as much because nobody was going to be eliminated in week 1 or week 2. But there's been tremendous drama and do or die stuff. The kind of do or die stuff that we always associate with championship. I mean, there's been cliffhangers every week. So teams were desperate not to lose, and the teams were desperate to win. So, so far, all the signs are it means as much as ever, even though it's round robin as opposed to straight knockout, and that really is the great thing about it. The obvious tweaks, Ger, that we can all see, I'm not so sure they'll happen as easily as I spoke to top official in Croke Park last week, who was heavily involved in this process, who was really defensive about the system as it is now. You know, there's an obvious anomaly. There's a 3-week break between the last round robin game in Leinster and the Leinster hurling final. Now that's 3 wasted weeks. So Leinster certainly could have been stretched out by at least a week. His answer to me was, well, it's clashing with football. Well, my answer to that is football and hurling now are completely different games. They're both run by the GAA, but they got different fan bases. They're different games. The Leinster football matches should not be interfering with the Leinster hurling fixtures, in my opinion, and the GAA needs to get beyond that. And also, I think the hurling final needs to be pushed back towards the end of August, closer to September again. It's on the 19th of August. Push it back a week or 2, and that's where you can make your ground. It's been too much for the teams playing 3 weeks in a row. That's been obvious. Like no team playing in week 3 has won yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that there's a lot of defensiveness around these situations, as opposed to like, yeah, it was great, isn't it? We're nearly getting to a situation where things are perfect, as opposed to, well, no, we fixed it now, and you're going to have to live with it, even though it's not fully fixed.
I think last week, probably there's been such a kind of a chorus of sympathy for Offaly over the last week or 2 when it was obvious that they were going to go ahead for relegation, and it's like people suddenly woke up to this relegation thing, which had been agreed last September and which had been touted for months before it was agreed. But it as so often in GAA, when big decisions are made, it's only when it comes close to reality that people actually start to react to it. And, you know, there's been some crazy stuff over the last few weeks about why Offaly need to be spared. Offaly don't need to be spared. Offaly have had 20 years. Offaly have been digging this hole for themselves for 20 years. There was a sadness, obviously, in Offaly going down, but the greater sadness was that Offaly are not competitive, and they haven't been competitive against any serious team for 5 years. The last time they gave a serious team a right rattle in the championship was Kilkenny in 2013 when Ollie Baker was in charge. They were leading by 5 points at half-time, lost by 5 points. But that's an outlier in their record over the last number of years. Kevin Martin has done great stuff this year, and it's unfortunate for him and the players that he's managed to motivate, but the Offaly County Board and Offaly hurling people in general have dug this hole for themselves. Offaly haven't beaten Kilkenny, Wexford or Dublin at minor level since 2005. Now that's an unsustainable record from their point of view. And in that time they've been beaten by Westmeath twice, they've been beaten by Carlow at minor level. So the work hasn't been done, and you know there has to be consequences, and this is the consequence for them.
Yeah, I think that's kind of fair enough, to be honest. A couple of quick questions about then what's going on in Munster. Is there any sense that actually awarding 3 points for a win instead of 2 for a win and 1 for a draw would actually make teams a little bit even more aggressive, going for the win in the last couple of minutes and maybe get us out of this potential weird logjam situation which we might find ourselves in, where everybody ends up roughly on the same points?
Yeah, crikey, I don't think. Well, I certainly didn't see any team playing for a draw during the last couple of weeks. Like, it's kind of impossible in hurling, really, especially when you can score from 100 yards now, or 90 yards. I was just thinking, in the 82 World Cup, did Italy qualify from their group with 3 draws? I had that in my head, going back from World Cups in the past. But I can't see Tipperary qualifying with 3 draws if they draw again on Sunday. I think it's fine. I think 2 points is fine at the moment, the way it is. I mean, I think the games have been stunning.
They have been stunning. Italy did qualify in 82, Kevin, and Google have both confirmed that to us. The situation with Waterford, right? So when you said there was 5 good teams, we weren't sure after the first game against Clare if Waterford actually could still constitute being a good team. But then you add Pádraig Mahoney back into the team, you add Austin Gleeson back into the team, and suddenly they look like a cohesive unit again. Do they have enough now to be able to pull this one out of the fire? Obviously, the suspension from this week will hopefully be not counterbalanced by Austin Gleeson getting one as well for the helmet incident. So they'll have a much stronger team heading into next week, and they'll have a good performance behind them as well. Yeah, no,
last one they were terrific. There were players there who'd been on the panel for a couple of years that were given their chance, and in some cases really grabbed it. I think what was clear as well last Sunday was what I lost Tom Devine was last summer when he went to America. I mean, he was terrific, especially in the first half. The problem they have is that they're playing a Limerick team that are absolutely flying. Limerick were really impressive, I thought, in Cork on Saturday night, and without having to play without Declan Hannon for most of the match, and they played with 14 men for 3/4 of the match. I think the big problem for Waterford is having to play Limerick on Sunday when Limerick have such momentum. It's relentless. I suppose the one thing that we thought before the Munster Championship started this year, I think everyone thought Tip are the top team and the other 4 are inseparable. And here we are with Tip kind of fighting for their lives and the other 4 inseparable still. So I couldn't call it, to be honest. I was more than surprised by the performance Waterford showed last Sunday. But I'm really impressed with Limerick, the way they're going. Yeah.
What about Cork? What's the truth about them?
The truth about them is it's hard to tell. I mean, their forwards have been terrific in spells. The defence would be the worry for Cork supporters, and that those worries seem to be allayed against Clare. They weren't an issue in the first half against Tip. They were certainly an issue in the second half last Saturday night when the full back line was ransacked really by Seamus Flanagan primarily, with Graham Mulcahy playing a supporting role. Damien Callahan had a brilliant year last year. He was an All-Star nominee. Just hasn't had the same form in the last couple of games. Certainly last Saturday night he looked distracted. I saw photographs in the paper yesterday in Cork that he was opening a new bar in town on Saturday night, so maybe that was on his mind. It's hard. Owen Cadigan played all the league matches and has been on the bench for the 3 championship games and hasn't come on. So people are wondering, is he fully fit or what? But if he's not fully fit, why is he on the bench? Centre back has been an issue. Tim O'Mahony played all the games there during the league, but was injured or wasn't fully fit for the first championship match. Mark Coleman played there last Saturday night and did fine in the first half, but his distribution in the second half was unusually lax. So the Cork certainly have issues in their defence, but they have so much skill and pace, Ger. Like, they're terrific to watch in full flow, and they've been high scoring in all their 3 games. But look, it depends. A lot now will depend on Sunday for Cork. If Waterford lose against Limerick, Cork would play Waterford in the final game, and Waterford won't have anything to play for. So that really should help Cork and Thurles. But if Waterford get anything on Sunday, well, then they're fighting for their lives on Sunday week.
All right, good stuff, Dennis. Thanks very much for that. And are we finally in agreement that this is the greatest Munster Hurling Championship of all time?
Absolutely.
All right, good stuff. That's Denis Walsh of the Sunday Times there. Okay. Let's move on and let's talk about the Fermanagh Monaghan game at the weekend. In some places it was very much an upset, but I suspect in the Fermanagh changing room heading into that game they thought that things were right there for them, and I'm delighted to say Ryan McMenamin is with us this morning. Good morning to you, Ryan. How are you getting on?
Oh, the best. Hey, the best.
Yeah. So, what was your level of confidence heading into that Monaghan game?
Yeah, look, I think we're pretty confident going into it. I think the boys did a lot of work, and we'd watched the Monaghan game against Tyrone, and probably felt maybe we just felt, like there was chances that we could get at them, and I think probably they were being hyped up after beating Tyrone, and probably being a Tyrone man myself now, I thought we were in the game with 5 minutes to go. But look, we thought we could get. We thought, if we got a good start on them, we were going to be hard to break down.
That was one of the things that in the build-up to the game, like you guys had obviously kept Armagh to just 7 points, and there was this assumption that somehow Monaghan were going to show up and kick 116, 117 against Fermanagh, which never really made that much sense in the build-up, because when you think about it, like your game is built on a very tight defensive unit and is very hard to break down. So, I mean, that was, I presume, one of the reasons that you guys had so much confidence, that you could somehow find a way to stop this Monaghan forward line from functioning properly.
Yeah. Look, and plus two, I think we've very good forwards as well. Like we've the two Quigleys, and we've Tomas Corrigan and Rory Corrigan to come off the bench as well. And with Aidan Breen got two great scores, But no, look, we were confident going in because we had confidence in the players, and we knew the players that they're in the shapes of their lives at the minute, and they're very, very, they're in great nick, and we kind of knew that we were being written off on us. I think there's a nice place going into a semi-final when I think you're 5-1 going in on a 2-horse race. It's an easy place to motivate the players. And I think the players I think it's only their 6th final in over 100 years. So like we were ravenous going into it. So it was easy motivating.
How do you describe the defensive structure? What is your setup?
There's no real setup. I think they get bogged down, especially in Gaelic football. They get bogged down in tactics, and I think anyone playing the game or anyone going, it's hard work. And I think our boys grafted, and we grafted maybe our full forward line probably worked really, really hard. And it's just more or less we just want to be tight at the back, and we just want to make it as difficult for teams to score against us. And when you play it that day, I think our front three work extremely hard just to close down the space and just always make sure that the middle's compact, and we're no different than Dublin, only Dublin seem to get away with it, but Dublin always makes sure the front three work very hard and get behind the ball, and we're no different. And I think it's any team. If you look at Liverpool, Salah, Firmino, they all work really, really hard, and it's no different. And even Pep Guardiola in Man City, like his first thing that he works on is defence, and then because he knows if he's a good defence, he can attack better. And we're no different. If we have a good defence, it keeps us in the game, and we know it gives us a good base to attack.
Yeah, right, Ryan, can I ask you then, that you mentioned there, it's almost like you say that the tactics is probably, we go overboard on the tactics talking about then. So how difficult then is it to set the side up the way that you're doing at the moment? Is there a lot of video analysis around it, looking at the key individual players from the opposition, trying to stop them and then trying to work a way to get your team into scoring positions then? Is that how it works? Because it does seem as if you've got to be so disciplined throughout the game to get your team to play that way for the duration of the match.
Yeah, look, it's been an ongoing thing. It's been from the start of the year. We've kind of set up what way we want to play, and we've worked it. But we do a lot of video analysis, and we do a lot. Like in fairness to the boys, we put in a long session last Saturday. But look, we do a lot of video analysis, but we don't try to throw too much stuff at the boys. But look, it comes into training games, and probably what way we're going to set up in our training games and condition games at training. So the players have to buy into it, and we haven't been doing it. We haven't said right at the start of the year. Since the championship's coming, we're going to start doing it. It's probably been an ongoing process since November, and then as the games go on, it probably comes naturally more in training. But like, it does take time. But you need the player. I think you know yourself, if the players don't buy into it, there's no point doing it. And we're lucky that the Fermanagh boys have bought into it, and they're working hard. And look, we do analysis what way we'd like to play, and the boys have bought into it. And like I think Roy's a great man for that. There, he's got the boys buying in. They hit the notebooks and the video analysis, and they just learn from it. So
so basically what you're saying, that it's more what you do rather than concentrating what the opposition doing then?
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. And look, we want to win the game, like, and so we know what way the opposition is going to set up, and so you try to counteract it. But at the same time, Kevin, you want to bring your own stamp to the game as well, and you don't want to play your own way. And look, I thought probably in the first half against Monaghan we controlled the game, like, and we should have been maybe 5-6 points up. Second half, their Division 1 team, they were gonna get their period, and maybe we kind of rode our luck a bit, but we did. But look, it's about getting your setup, getting your matchups, but we've been probably working on it probably since November, so it more comes naturally.
You get to watch down in Donegal this weekend. Pure enjoyment. It's like, oh, this is great.
It's nice. It's nice to go. It's nice to go into a semi-final knowing you're already into a final, like, you know. But no, I've got a club match maybe on the same day, so the club can be looking me to play. So I'll have to pass that with Rory first. So I'll see what happens first. But I think Tyrone's playing on the Saturday, so I want to go down and watch them as well. Like, so I have a busy weekend.
Yeah, not bad. Also, I presume you've seen this. You're going viral on the internet after this incident. Have a look at this. Want to play this video?
Don't.
This is Rory there, and then you're shouting instructions. And hang on a second. Need to make yourself clear. Out come the teeth.
Hey, look, I tell you, must have been 30 seconds after the game. We were walking down to the hotel after, and next thing I've seen a few Monaghan supporters. They were giving me grief about it, and I was kind of going. And then I said, social media works too quick. I actually nearly I got stuck at it in the club now, but I actually nearly choked on the bloody thing. So it had to come out, and I've been caught doing worse things on the camera. I'll take that there.
Ryan, good stuff. Congratulations and well done, everybody. Thanks a million.
Well, thank you. Hey.
It's Ryan McMenamin, part of the backroom team for a history-making Fermanagh side that are through to the Ulster football final.
Amazing.
It is. Pardon me. It's an incredible achievement for them. So look, I just want to go back to the other breaking news this morning is that there's been a very serious shooting incident at Bray Boxing Club. It now turns out that a man has been killed in that incident at Bray Boxing Club. The Garda statement released earlier on said that all three were seriously injured. It then did appear that one victim was close to death, and then it has now been reported by the Star that one man has died after that shooting and that two others are indeed in a serious condition. The Mirror are reporting that a well-known boxing trainer is among those injured after that shooting in Bray Boxing Club. Obviously this is the boxing club was shot to global fame when Katie Taylor obviously won her gold medal and all her European and world titles as an amateur while she boxed from that club. She doesn't box from that club anymore, of course, since she has turned professional. So that is the story with regards to the situation at Bray this morning. That's pretty much our lot for this morning. Was there anything else that we needed to talk about?
No, we've got a lot in on all the GAA from the week and all the World Cup, everything. So I think we're done.
There was one last bit. We got a text in from Sean Kelly, the former president of the GAA, tweet rather, over the course of the weekend. He was at the game, the Kerry game at the weekend. Kerry kicked 32 points on off, kind of below the radar, kicking 32 points against a Clare team. I think the spread in that game was about 5 points. It was like, well, they covered that and a bit. But he was texting us, tweeting us pictures of the pitch invasion afterwards, and David Clifford signing autographs. We have some footage from that as well that we can roll out here now. This is actually after the game. So this is Tommy doing a bit of spying on the warm down down in Kenmare at the weekend. This is in Killarney. O'Donoghue's in the Clare jersey after having swapped. With the pitch invasions, so obviously in football, pitch invasions are seen as this kind of relic of
total no-no, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like I never understood the massive outpourings of disgust that there'd be on Sky after a match. Like,
I think it was more just off the safety, wasn't it? The safety element. I think it was because obviously after Hillsborough, when they took down the barriers or the fencing, as soon as he took the fencing down, then it was considered like a total no-no, because when they didn't have fencing up during, would it have been the 70s? Probably would have been. There was crowd trouble. There was a lot of crowd trouble at games, so that's why they erected fencing. Obviously, Hillsborough then changed everything, changed the course of. Obviously, all seater stadiums came into it then. So it is nice, though, isn't it? It is great when you see it. I love going to the matches as well when you see them after the game.
Yeah, it's class.
It's class. It's class.
And I love as well that at half time the kids come on and play a bit of hurling in Wexford Park and Parnell Park.
Yeah.
And this is exactly how it should be.
Well, when Mayo win the All Ireland, I'll be amongst them. So I'll
straight out. Top off.
Yeah.
A lot of people wondering if there could be VAR, and people saying that this is the first time that this umpire has made a mistake. He's probably umpired hundreds of games. This could be his first mistake for all we know, albeit a big one. No need for calls for big changes. But that's not good enough. You have to, when these incidents happen, you have to make the changes.
That's what it is. It's these incidents that highlights what can happen. We know for a fact it will happen again. Of course it will happen again if changes aren't made. So why not just implement them if it is at all possible? Which it is.
Yeah, it's really easy.
Yeah.
All right, that is pretty much all we have time for. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/off the ball. Hit the subscribe button, and anytime we do some good stuff, we'll ping you a little message and you can access it straight away. Going to play out here with a very special feature interview that we have running on YouTube and facebook.com/off the ball. Ethan Asewa spoke with Brian O'Driscoll after his second and final retirement. Here he is talking about facing Munster in 2009. Tomorrow morning, Mossy Quinn and Dave McIntyre in studio on the Flying Dubs. That's the Dublin footballers, and of course it also works for the Golden State Warriors, who are 2-0 in the finals against Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James. And of course we'll be talking about the Irish in Australia as well. That's the rugby, but here we are playing you out with some Brian O'Driscoll and Issa Naseba goodness. Good luck.
Did you realise the magnitude of the Munster games in advance of that one?
I knew of it. Obviously, I had a broken arm when we lost to.
We lost back to back.
We lost back to back, and we lost poorly in the RDS. Rog had the ball on a string and was putting the ball in the 5 metre channel constantly throughout that match. But the magnitude of playing in Croke Park in front of over 82,000 people, that was like, wow. This is what it's all about. This is why you come here to play. And I'd just never seen crowds like that before.
But maybe not you were just playing your natural game, but I think a lot of us were playing scared because of the fact that we'd lost in 06, because they were 2-time champions, because...
There was the Munster aura.
Yeah.
There was the Red Army. I remember in the drive up to coming past the Sandymount Hotel, there wasn't a blue jersey in sight. There wasn't a Leinster fan in sight. They all came in late. I remember when we called the move Rocky, where Rocky Nelson made a great break.
I've seen it so much this season. Everyone's using it. Everyone's using it.
It's called Rocky. Yeah. I was convinced that move is never going to work. And if you look at the replay, I think yourself and myself about 50 metres behind where Rocky probably gets turned over.
We'll just wait for the next phase.
We'll wait for the next phase. We'll run and score Rocky, because his influence was great. He had a great mind for it. But it was that day that I was like, well, this is pretty impressive.